When Allah creates a child, He entrusts him to his parents. In a conversation between a child and a ruler, the child says to the ruler, "My parents have sold my life to you for money." Who can he trust if he does not trust his parents? He trusts the sages. And the sages have decided that I should die. If the sages won't take care of you, there is only one person left. And that's the ruler of the country. So you intend to drink my blood. And what happens if you don't trust the ruler? There's only one place left. You surrender yourself to God. I am very comfortable because I surrendered myself to God. I am very cheerful. I am happy because God's justice is not like the justice of the servant. Being in the flow, being in a state of surrender, brings everything to a person. In fact, let's say that if a person is in surrender, if he is in the flow, he can reach the goal he wants to reach very easily. Imagine a river. The river does not ask anyone for directions to reach the ocean. It doesn't ask anyone for directions. It doesn't consult anyone for advice. It doesn't get anyone's support, but the river reaches the ocean. Why? It is in the flow. Human life is like a river. And because human life is like a river, it will reach the ocean, whether he wants to or not. When you are in the flow, your job is very easy. Once upon a time, there was a very just ruler. He was a very just ruler, and he had a disease for which there was no cure. All the doctors gathered, they did all the treatments, but there was no result. The ruler was going to die. One day, a physician came and said, "Your Majesty, I have found a cure for your illness. There is a way for you to recover." The monarch curiously asked how he would be cured. "Sir," said the physician, "you need to drink the blood of a child to be cured." Of course, the ruler got angry. "Unbecoming of a just ruler, how can I slaughter another child to live?" The doctor said, "Your Majesty, our state and homeland need you. You must live. If you don't live, the whole state may be in trouble. You must drink the blood of a child. If such a sin is to be committed, call the religious scholars and ask them what is the punishment for killing a child." On the one hand, there is the fear of death, and on the other hand, there is the life of a child. I can say this about death. Death is the fruit of our life. You know, when we plant a tree, the main purpose is to get the fruit. We came to the world. The fruit of our life is death. And who is afraid of death? Those who do not live life are afraid of death. If society has filled his subconscious mind, if he lives according to the wishes of society, he is not himself. He is not living himself. So what does he do because he is not living life? He is afraid of death. The one who lives life is not afraid of death. Even those who know life are not afraid of death. Because what we call life, good friends, is not something that starts and ends on earth. What we realize as death is to move to another room. It is evolving to another place. It is just a change, but imagine you haven't lived life. You have not lived and you have come towards the end of life. And what do people who have not lived this life do when they come to the end of life? They become vicious. They get angry at everything. They get angry at everything. He gets angry with the children because there is a life that has escaped him. Let me tell you a very interesting story. My friend told me about it. It's her own story. When I was a child, my mother used to take me to funerals. It was like she was trying to teach me a lesson. Look, realize how transient life is. She always made me say goodbye to the dead at the funeral, and I had to go. One day we were at another funeral. I was 9 years old, and the coffin was open. Meanwhile, I was waiting for my turn to say goodbye. Then someone came and touched my shoulder and said, "You are living life. You're young. You're just a child." I couldn't live life. I couldn't do what I wanted. I couldn't live life. You live life because the time that passes does not come back. An uncle touched my shoulder. He gave his advice. Of course, there was sadness in his eyes. There was mourning. His eyes were misty. He said these words and left. Then it was my turn. I said goodbye to the person in the coffin. My mother was trying to teach me a lesson to understand that life is temporary. And I got to the coffin, and when I got there, I thought my mind was going to fly. I was so scared. The person who had just given me advice was now lying in the coffin. I learned a lesson from a dead man. I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't tell anyone because I was scared. That advice had a great effect on me. Isn't that interesting, friends? I mean, when you get advice from a dead person, you apply it. I listened to a television program a long time ago. He says that at 3 o'clock at night, they pass by us listening to music. There is music coming from the street like this, but he says there is a cemetery 150 meters away from our house. When we get there, he says he turns down the music. So he has no respect for the living, but he respects the dead. Ahmet Kaya says, beautiful friends, when death comes, don't moan and groan. When it comes, you will be gone, because there is no death while you are alive. When death comes, you are already gone. And anyway, good friends, if the blood of a ruler child is drunk, he will recover. But on the one hand, he has the fear of death. And on the other hand, his conscience is not at ease. What does he say? Let the scholars, even the religious scholars, gather and decide. The religious scholars are gathering in the palace, and one of them says, no, how can that be? I mean, how can we kill a child so that the sultan, the ruler, will live? Another one says, but for the peace of the nation, for the happiness of the nation, one person can see a child. There are very long discussions. At the end of the discussion, someone comes in front of a spokesman ruler and says, sir, we have made a decision. Yes, it may not be right to drink the blood of a child, but for the peace of the homeland. Because your enemies are afraid of you. Without you, they can easily attack us. We can sacrifice a child for the peace of the whole society. But we still need the consent of the child and the family. The ruler calls his commander and says, find me a child. Give a lot of money to the family of this child. And the commander goes out. Friends, he looks for a poor family in city after city, village after village, town after town. And there is no family suitable for this situation. No one is willing to give his child, even if he is poor. Finally, good friends say that there is a family in a village. You can find a child with the qualities you are looking for there. The commander reaches that family. The family starts to explain, we have 7 children. When we try to feed them, we cannot feed them properly. The commander makes an offer. If you give us one of the 7 children, the other 6 children will be comfortable with the money we will give you. This makes sense to the parents, and the parents sacrifice one of the children. The sacrificed child is given to the commander. The commander says to the child, come on, say goodbye to your parents. The child has already heard the conversations while saying goodbye to his parents. He doesn't even say, where am I going? His mother says, that's conscience, friends. My son says, you can give up if you want. You cannot go if you want. The boy says, Mommy, as far as I understand, my blood will cure the ruler. At the same time, my brothers will be comfortable with the money given for my blood. I will go. And friends, the commander gives twice the money requested by the family and takes the child to the palace. The commander tells the ruler that we have found the child you were looking for. The commander says, okay, let me meet the boy one last time. The child is brought before the ruler. The child is very cheerful, smiling, comfortable, pleasant. The ruler says, I guess you don't know this situation. You will die. The boy says that when Allah creates a servant, he first entrusts him to his parents. My parents sold my life to you for money. Of course, if your parents don't take care of you, who do you trust? You trust the sages, and the sages have decided that I must die. I'm left with the ruler of the country as my last refuge. So you intend to drink my blood. What if you don't trust the ruler anymore? There is only one place left. You leave yourself to Allah. You surrender yourself to Allah. And right now I am very comfortable, very cheerful, very happy because I surrendered myself to Allah, because Allah's justice is not like the justice of the servant. Because Allah's justice is not like the justice of the servant, I took refuge in Him. And because I took refuge in Him, I am very happy, very comfortable, very cheerful. The ruler feels very ashamed, he feels ashamed, and he calls his commander. He says, take this child back to his family and don't take back the money you gave. How can I, as a ruler, surrender to Allah when a child is so surrendered to Allah? The child is taken back to his family and the money given is not taken back. And the commander recovers very quickly. I read somewhere that a man's wounds either leave him wounded or make him wise. The boy left himself to his creator. And Hazrat Maula says, light seeps through the wound. A light leaks from the child's wound and illuminates the child, but not only the child. It enlightens those around him and the ruler too. Light seeps from the wound, and you give yourself to the Creator because of that wound. and maybe you will be enlightened with the light. The wound sometimes leaves us to the Creator, and when it is left to Him, the river reaches the ocean. Your life is a river, and it brings you to the ocean. What does a wound sometimes do? When we give ourselves to surrender, friends, when we give ourselves to the flow, and when we give ourselves to the gaze, we are at ease. When you are just in the flow, when you are in surrender, and when you are just looking at this flow, this surrender, when you are in the gaze, everything is perfect. Everything is perfect. When you are in flow, when you are in surrender, you are comfortable in the world and after the world. We are comfortable in the world and at the end of the world and beyond the world. We are in the flow and in the gaze. And I am grateful to you for being in the flow, for watching life like a movie and being in the gaze, for being in surrender, for being aware of the light coming from your wounds. Please accept my respect for you for following me with such love and interest, and stay with love as always, even with love, even with passion.